Welcome to my presentation on my research, which aimed to understand my experience of eating behaviours and mealtimes as the parent of 2 autistic children. Autism represents a range of complex developmental difficulties with unknown etiology that affects a person's social interaction and communication. Atypical eating behaviours are common in children with autism, and for me, we regularly describe mealtimes as the bane of our lives. I adopted a reflective topical autobiography in order to answer the question, how have I experienced mealtimes and eating behaviours as a parent of 2 autistic children? 5 core themes emerge from the data, which will be discussed later. In order to answer my research question, I took a qualitative post-positivist approach which studies things in their natural settings to describe routine and problematic moments in an individual's life. Autobiography aims to increase understanding of the human experience through the lived experience of the self. Narrative is a fundamental component of biographical research in order to give meaning to lives using personal wisdom, lived experience, and knowledge as rich sources of material to inform the research. The appeal of an autobiographical approach lies in its overt positioning of the researcher, the self, within the research process. Using the steps identified by Johnston, 1999, I carried out a reflective topical autobiography as a researcher as participant using data collected in a diary over a 4-week period. The reflective topical autobiography is a snapshot or specific part of the person's life story which has some topical interest. It is a useful approach that makes specific aspects of an individual's life the topic of investigation, which readers are able to read themselves into and be touched by the final report. Autism is not a single disorder, but a multifaceted condition resulting from both genetic and environmental factors, with a lack of agreement as to what causes it or even constitutes it. It consists of a spectrum of behaviours, and the severity of symptoms varies widely. Autism consists of an array of behaviours, which may include self-injury, severe tantrums, and feeding problems. Atypical eating behaviours are common in autistic children, with limited food preferences or selective eating being the most frequent feeding problem, followed by hypersensitivity to food texture. Eating and mealtime behaviours can have a negative impact on family routines. Plant and Sanders, 2007, reported that the most stressful task for mothers of preschool-aged children with developmental difficulties, not specifically autism, was helping and supervising at mealtimes, well exceeding the perceived stressfulness of other tasks, such as cleaning up after a child, settling a child at bedtime, and helping and supervising with toileting. In a study by Dickey et al. 2009, one mother reported, "All mealtimes are stressful. It's probably the most difficult time." Mealtimes are often described as being stressful, chaotic, and energy-depleting times that elicited feelings of worry and guilt, with parents worried about nutritional quality, the impact on their child development, and the overall mealtime experience, as reported by Suarez et al. 2014. In a chapter entitled "Help, My Son Eats Only Macaroni and Cheese," Ahern 2001 writes, "One of my first encounters of problematic eating in a child with autism was a boy who ate macaroni cheese. Not only would he refuse other foods, but he would eat only a particular brand of macaroni cheese, prepared in a specific manner. This is something I can relate to." Mealtimes are an important family occupation, often associated with opportunities for conversation, togetherness, family relations, and structured time together, contributing to increased family quality of life. 5 themes emerge from the data, which I will discuss along with excerpts from my diary entries. Strategies to make mealtimes a success, or not. This theme highlights experiences which reflect a need to develop strategies in order to address mealtime difficulties. As a mother, I work to develop strategies to make mealtimes a success for all of the family. This varies from practical strategies, simple actions we can take to facilitate eating and mealtimes, physical strategies, those where we use something physical to improve the mealtime experience, such as allowing them to eat somewhere other than the kitchen or dining room, or allow electronic devices, and emotional strategies, where we choose to eat somewhere that serves a particular dish, or we go somewhere that will be nice for the children, or maybe we can use to encourage positive behaviour. An example of practical strategies. I realise that when I offer him choices for food for breakfast, he always chooses the last item I offer him. On many occasions, I will then give him the food, and he says, "I don't want that." I look over the diary and see that for the last week he has eaten pancakes, cereals, and scrambled egg. I have offered him croissants on 2 occasions, which he accepts, but refuses to eat when I have cooked them, telling me I didn't want croissants. I make him a breakfast menu, which has photographs of the things he could have for breakfast to facilitate food choices, particularly as time can be constrained in the mornings. It is a visual prompt with very little writing. Physical strategies. For us to eat out at a restaurant, we must have electronic devices, and this is the difference between a successful quality meal experience or not. We have occasionally not had devices with us, and as long as there is something, like top trumps, it works okay, but the meal would be kept short and could not be extended. Emotional strategies. It feels like our options for food decrease on a weekly basis. At the moment, there is safety in cheesy pasta and/or macaroni cheese, or a burger. He currently says that his favourite food is a Burger King Whopper with cheese. I'm actually really pleased about this, as we now have an alternative option for food. When we struggle for options for food, we drive to Burger King, or if we want to get him to agree to go somewhere, we can encourage him to go with a Burger King. Unfulfilled hopes for eating and mealtimes. This represents the feeling of guilt over the quality of food consumed from a nutritional perspective. Culturally, there is an expectation that families eat together to provide a quality time for all family members and to enable social interaction. I enjoy cooking and used to hope for us to have a family meal together at least 2 or 3 times per week, if not daily. I prepare a spaghetti bolognese as I know everyone will eat that. I place the sauce in a separate dish. One takes a tiny taste and shakes his head. I am not eating that. The other also tastes his and says, I don't like it. I tell them they have to eat it. I want to cry. For the first time in ages, I thought we would try dinner together and it failed. I suppose I had unrealistic expectations and was foolish to think it would have been okay. Reasons for mealtime or eating behaviours resulting in mealtimes not working. There are a number of barriers to successful mealtimes. These can vary from simply finding it difficult to sit at a table, limited food options, and challenges relating to sensory processing difficulties. He sits half on his chair, half off, bouncing from side to side. He curls his legs under himself at the table. He never sits correctly. One sits on his chair with his feet on the chair and his elbows resting on his bent knees and constantly hits his head. Searching for answers. Whilst feeling compassion for my child, there is a constant sense of confusion and lack of understanding about many aspects of their life. This is the same for eating behaviours. We try to make sense of this. We are constantly trying to understand the reason for different behaviours, whether it is why a problem has occurred at school, why they are behaving in a particular way. This could be temperature, hunger, both, anything. We know we can't always apply our own logic to these events. For example, one child hates geography. We tried to work out what it was about geography that was so bad. Who does he sit next to? Is he in a different seat? Is it a different teacher? Eventually we find out that the reason he doesn't like it sounds like photography, and he doesn't like having his photograph taken. Sometimes it is easier to say yes. Following on from trying to understand behaviours comes a resignation that it is easier to avoid some conflict for the benefit of you and your child, and to offer empathy when they may have had a challenging day, protecting them from further confrontation at home. When times are challenging, it feels difficult fighting with him over what to eat. Home is his safe place, and there are times it feels foolish to force him to eat something he doesn't want, when it will upset him more on what may have already been a stressful day for him. This research explored the experience of eating and mealtime behaviours of autistic children from the perspective of the parent, and reflected upon this in order to identify the core themes of this experience. Eating and mealtime behaviours had a negative impact on all family members, including the autistic child, but this experience promoted compassion and empathy between the mother and child, highlighting the complex nature of autism. This research adds to the theoretical and practical understanding of a parent's experience of eating and mealtimes with an autistic child, to share the story, raise awareness, and reach others who would benefit from the information within the research, such as other carers and families of children with autism. It is hoped that this will create a shared understanding and an empathy which may otherwise go unrecognised. Being a parent of a child with a learning disability can be a lonely experience, and sometimes it is helpful to know that you are not alone, experiencing similar challenges to other families, and a resonance which provides a greater understanding of the mealtime experience for parents of children with autism. Thank you.